I'll say the bartender made each party come to the front when their number was called, leaving their drinks behind and pretending to pick up a pizza, exiting through the back door where a kid dressed in chef's whites took the box and sent them around the block to re-enter the front door, sit back down with their drinks, and wait for their number to come up again. I'll say I was feeding quarters into the jukebox, that you asked me to dance, and I said no, but I let you sit at my table, breaking the 6 feet apart rule. I'll say I fell for your eyes because they brought out the blue of your mask. I'll say we talked intermittently until midnight, then went our separate ways, that I've still never seen your mouth, your nose. I'll say we're friends, nothing more. I'll tell everyone the same story this time, including myself, especially myself. Okay, I got a few more. This one is a short one called Gaslight. How it becomes you, my love, the flickering warm light on your face of an evening, the sparkle of jewels in your hair, your crimson gown. Pity they've added that sulfur smell to remind us when the flame's gone out. This is called Help is on the Way. Yep. Help is on the way. I stopped buying the newspaper when I realized it wasn't telling me what I want to know, which is what will happen tomorrow. If I'd known more about today, for example, I might have gotten out of bed earlier, might have done something interesting enough to put me in tomorrow's paper, alongside the stories about all the people who are being shot today and how enraged their pastors and families are, and those about fires and floods in a whole little town in California gone in an instant. But of course, there are still good reasons to read the newspaper. There are recipes for dishes I could make if anyone would come over, puzzles whose answers will be in the paper tomorrow, but by then I will have solved the puzzles or thrown them away. And there are reports of how much people sold what stocks for yesterday, but nothing about what they'll do with all that money. There's the fishing news, and in those pages, yes, there may be a forecast of high tide, low tide, moonrise, sunrise, and in some papers, an instruction of what time for girls and women to light Shabbat candles, in case for some reason they can't be bothered to look up at the first 3 stars to appear on Friday night. But then come the obituaries, which might have been useful to the people who died had they been published earlier while there was still time to correct whatever mistakes they were about to make. I guess that's a death poem. This is not a death poem, for once. This is a poem that I started after watching the 2020 World Series. And I got it so far wrong that after we read it in group, I went back and did all the research. And so it's a totally different poem, but it's still kind of there. It's called A Rosarena Makes Himself at Home. One day you're a small town Cuban boy who's never heard of AstroTurf, people telling you you're good, but you still wonder, shouldn't you maybe think about doing something else, like fry cook, drive a truck, slaughter hogs? But they keep saying no, until this dream is the only thing you have when you're fleeing on a leaky raft, or you break your hand or get a virus and have to take some time off. And then you're 25, you have a daughter, you're eating hot dogs on American bread with American mustard, the crowd's made of cardboard, and when you trade chest bumps, you've got to watch you don't hurt someone. So it's 1 out, top of the first, game 6, fucking World Series, man. Your guy's down by 1 game and you're eyeing a high slider, letting it go, and it's 0-1, and the next one's already coming fast, could be 85, 86 miles an hour. Every sinew in your body points to center left, your will's stone hard. It's like you almost don't need a bat. And last poem is called Janice. Don't tell me what freedom is another word for. Not after you died so ugly, so soon. Neighbor sitting on his front stoop with his tenant, young cop. A kid in a mustache and black suspenders pulls up in an unmarked, shouts, "No loitering," over the loudspeaker. Cop humor. I want all three of them. But knowing I'd have to see them again, I hold back, tell myself the old one's too old, the younger ones work too hard. Patricia McMillan, you have 0 points, says the coffee app I haven't used in over a year, from back before I sold the house in Michigan and hauled 2 truckloads of furniture back to Chicago. What a mess that was. You can't know what any woman thinks she hasn't got to lose. Maybe freedom's another word for nothing, and maybe nothing's plenty. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hey.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask a favor, which I think people will appreciate later? Would you read the stepmother poem again? Because I had forgotten to turn on recording, and we really want to have that one on
Oh, sweet.
video.
Sure. I can find it.
We're going to go a little long, but I think I don't want to be the one who caused that not to be on the video.
Okay, it's called Why We Rejected Our Stepmother. Because she sang Happy Birthday wrong. Because she gave us the wrong presents on the wrong holidays. Because she ate 4 of the 3 dozen cookies our aunt made for us. Because sometimes she signed greeting cards using the L word and sometimes not. Because her germs were not our germs, her viral load not our viral load, and even if she never touched us, she touched Dad, which was bad enough. Because we knew she didn't look or smell or sound like Mom, but when she was there, we couldn't remember how Mom used to look or smell or sound. Because she moved into our house and put her things all over in the living room and the kitchen and the basement and laundry room and Dad's bedroom. Because she slept with Dad in the bed Mom slept in and sat on the couch with Dad in the room where Mom died and on the living room couch in front of the fireplace where we wanted to be with Dad. Because she made Dad happy in ways we couldn't, in ways even Mom couldn't anymore, and that made us sad. Because Dad told us he loved her. Because she could see us on our video calls with Dad from camp, even if we didn't look directly at her, which we didn't. Because she blamed her fart on Mom's dog in Mom's kitchen, where we had not offered her any of our guacamole anyway. Because she did not adequately fear either Dad or us. Because, she told us, her father was a Republican, even if she wasn't. Because she ate meat and drank red wine with Dad behind our backs, and when we told Dad it was disgusting, he said Mom had eaten veal, which he obviously just said to protect her. Because when her dad died, she cried, but when our grandpa died, she didn't cry, at least not in front of us. Because she didn't have her own kids, all she had were nieces and nephews from out of town, and we only met most of them once at the wedding, and we didn't like them. Because after we went to college and got jobs, Dad sold our house, and we had to move our things to the cities where we lived or put them in storage, or she'd have thrown them out. Because while she may at first have seemed to Dad good enough for him, she would never, ever be good enough for us. Because we wanted Mom back, and even if that was impossible, her being there made it more impossible. That's why we threw her out.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Definitely worth hearing a second time, and the video will have it complete. Our next reader is Nancy Takash, who is the recipient of a 2016 Juniper Prize for Poetry for the Warrior Poems, a 2020 Pushcart Prize, not just a nomination, and 2 15 Bites Best Book Awards for Poetry. She's the author of 3 books of poetry, several chapbooks, and she's currently the Poet Laureate of Utah's Art Hub, Helper City, where she directs the Steamboat Mountain Reading Series. She continues to volunteer at the local Senior Citizen Center, teaching a weekly poetry workshop to members of her community. Nancy enjoys swimming, hiking, and lately mushroom foraging. And I should say she lives some of the time in Utah and some of the time in Wisconsin. So she likes a variety of climate and weather. Nancy Takash. You're muted, dear.
Okay.
We need those T-shirts, the ones that say you're muted, and on the back they say mute yourself.
Thank you so much, Judy, for organizing this. It's an incredible retreat, as always. And also thanks to my workshop group. It's been wonderful. Great poets in the group. Glad to hear them read. And also to my workshop group during the year, Penny, Judy, and Helen, for helping me out with so many of my poems. I'm going to read just one long poem tonight from the last section of a new book that I recently finished writing. The section of the book is titled Notes to God from County Road H. And it's the first poem in that section, addressing the Christian God I grew up with in my Catholic childhood. And although I'm not a practicing Catholic nor a believer, so to speak, somehow this poem came to me. And I guess because I just felt helpless with the destruction of the earth, the terrible drought that's encompassing the West and Utah, where I've lived for the past 40 years. A couple of notes. The Bears Ears, I'm sure you've heard of, is an area of wilderness in Utah and a sacred land for 7 native tribes that President Obama made into a national monument, and it was most of it was taken down by Trump. And so they're still fighting for this, and I hope they succeed. And an elephant fish actually has an elephant nose in the Congo and is sensitive, has a sensitive extension of the mouth that is kind of tubular shaped. And so I'll just read the poem. There are little sections in the poem and I'll just pause between them. And again, it's addressed to God. Drought. I think you are here somewhere, where oceans of stars once fell into orbit and rolled up on the shore of the skies and grew where they died and blew up, seeding in gas to make some new suns. You could be the space roar, the red swirl of Jupiter's storm, the alien star, or that crab who lives on Mars. This morning, I want to keep the rosy light that surfs in the violet, 2 flickers of cream that know what they will become as the sky reels in its cup of flowers, and I walk out beneath it all, in this skin I bear and love. I watch the soft mouths of range cows in the hot desert, eating the last bale of alfalfa. They are black, so beautifully black, breaths wet and green as they sway toward my empty hands. I watch a pair of finches who follow me to where I wash my hands, quiet finches, good-looking ones who flutter in my runoff. I watch a horse in my neighbor's small field, the one I have brought a pair to, all white with a half moon that cups her left eye. She gets wild when the trailer comes. She will ride to 9 Mile Canyon to live for the summer between sky and sage and juniper. The poet loves texture and wicked drama. She wants the scent of sunrise in cadmium yellow on her paper. She wants the blue hip of a mountain, the white gold of a blossom, the bee inside the crystal of a frozen tulip. She believes in the ancient furnace, the bitter orange in the fridge. She opens an envelope to a small credit that saves her. The poet wants to hold a blue iris inside the creek of her heart. She touches a watercolor brush and fears for the animal. God, I remember praying to you, you who were the father of a son who was kinder. You are a man playing piano with childish fingers. I am a woman, a robin, a tiger. My friend is so sick. The chemo has been over months ago. Her day worships the way she used to be, a pianist, a poet. She doesn't hear, is dizzy when she stands, eats the tofu of lamplight, tofu of coffee grounds, of snow, of sky, long and promising. My friend jiggles a butterfly pencil and opens the wine of her writing, the wine of cold tea. She makes sure her dogs are lean and happy, running for the ball, the special biscuit. I love the husky notes of the yellow-headed blackbird, the scout here all day, fence to spruce, his song a cactus with shoulders, sure as a mermaid's inside this ancient desert sea, his gold hood and coal body like sun on Chicago. He calls from my clothesline, my red gate, my crabapple, here to look for water in our desert. This body, this light, this voice. There are no answers when I pray for more lemon balm, less starlight, a few straggly hollyhocks through days of diamond cutting heat. What comes from the calls of magpies? 2 sprigs of dill and 1 green hummingbird. What swirls in my mug? An ounce of dark chocolate. I have finally put out sun tea. I have lost the wild monkey flower. What days will not open? Those inside the rodeos of rainless clouds. What happened to my windows? They're etched with dust. A bright yellow bee lives one day on my screen and then dies holding on. I have bought a delphinium because I love the depth of its purple. I will conserve dishwater, pee, spit to water it. My neighbor says, what could be better than beans refried by someone else? After my mother dies, she whitens a scarf my mother crocheted for me, irons its stars wide open. She knows I'm across the street, motherless, fatherless. She says she doesn't believe in dinosaurs. She buys me a Bible. She can't stand up to roll tortillas anymore, her knees given out. Mornings, she has the TV on to Jimmy Swaggart. At the commercials, she cracks jokes about our neighbor 10 years younger than she is, and the man who parks his car there often. She told me she grew up in a pueblo and remembers the scent of sage. I bring her some from the desert, and she smells with her eyes closed. Who will remember the peace of aspen, the gentle shine of scorpions, the luck of sandstone, the lope of a mesa, the dinosaur footprint in the heavens of a coal mine? Who will remember the troll of bootlace, the hem of history, an atrocity every day? Who will remember the foot trail through bramble and fireweed, the next awkward step full of fragrance? Who will remember the gypsy mushrooms, the blink of sparrows, the flames of gamble oak, the butter, the brine? I believe there is nothing better than an apricot blossom, or my dog's white muzzle nudging my wrist to ask a question. Nothing better than a note that says, I'll be back in an hour, my love. Or this pen that floats an oarship inside its small blue capsule, this pen that brings back a walk in wild stones between the bear's ears, or a trek on snowy miles to find icy fireworks in a Lake Superior cave. Nothing better than bumper stickers. May peace bewitch you. And there is no mad tofu disease. My son just sent from his red mailbox on Geranium Street in a priority envelope. There is nothing more miraculous than evolution right before our eyes in the deep Congo River, where the elephant fish can easily pick food between river pebbles with its tapered mouth. Or a petroglyph panel with its herd of deer and human figures like bee-body ghosts that float on a sandstone wall in Buckhorn Wash under the shine of desert varnish, where water slips over a cliff in fingers of darkness. Tonight, I'm on the porch under the snow of the Milky Way. I am far enough to believe Venus is a sign of hope, swaddled in its greenhouse gases. I keep a gray feather as a bookmark, my breath strips and toe warmers, a sponge my son says can breed disease in my kitchen. I use an eraser in the shape of a butterfly, the word I take apart to make era, air, sear, erase. On my desk, a Navajo woman carved from sandstone wears a nick at her shoulder, her green rug full of my dust. Tonight, I will make bean enchiladas and doctor a can of adobo. I will drink from the peach glass etched in morning glories. I've bought a lily and sit next to it, breathing its drift, remembering lost Easters. I am waiting this week for the first sacred datura. What wisdom in the curve of a dog's paw, in its descending blossom, in its pads that knead earth, in its run that forgets balance, in its transcendence towards us. Aren't we moving towards happiness always? Moving aside the shells and the orange peels, the tin cans and chamomile, moving aside the bills we have torn and finally paid up. God, my dog is brown with a white triangle at his throat. He sleeps under green fleece with an ancient sense that knows burrow, ears that have to believe in silence. He is unafraid when he sees a dagger of lightning, feels a world of thunder in his heart. Thank you.
Woo, woo.
Nancy. Beautiful.
Thank you.
It's nice to hear you again.
Thanks, Bob.
Gonna read the one.
You can't see me, but Nancy, that was very good. It's Patricia.
Patricia.
I'm
Hey.
here somewhere.
Hi, Patricia.
Yeah, but
We're
you're
glad to
not
not
here.
see you.
I'm here somewhere.
You're here somewhere, but your camera's not on. Why is
I
that?
know, because it doesn't want to be on.
Well, I can ask you to
cooperating.
start video, but I don't know if it will or not.
Uh-oh.
I've asked you. Our next reader, Kathy McGoldrick. This is her first year with us. And she has a BA in English and MFA in writing from the State University of New York at Buffalo. And during that time, she was published in several literary magazines and journals. She retired about 6 years ago as Director of Services for the Cattaraugus County Department of Social Services. And before COVID, she traveled to Europe, Asia, Australia, and New Zealand. And I must say, when Helen suggested letting her come, and I looked at the fact that she survived Irving Feldman, I decided she must have some chops.
Woohoo!
Actually, Irving didn't give me as much trouble as Bob Creeley, who wanted me thrown out because I wrote a poem that was a sort of a, was sort of a bad, not imitation, but satire of Howell. So, yeah, but others convinced him that probably wasn't a good idea. So
You're not the first person to do that. I don't know why he would
I'm
take
sure
a
I'm
big issue
not.
out of it.
Yeah. Anyway, my first poem is called Teasel, and probably most of you know what teasel is. It's that plant with the spiky thing at the top. It grows just about anywhere, I think, maybe not in the desert. But one thing you might not know is that at one point, probably for a while, it was used to help comb through wool before it was woven. And that is just a little piece of this poem. So this is called Teasel. It seemed like a dream down by the fall creekside, where the waters silvered and the teasel raised the nap of the grays. We stood. Some ancient Odysseus returned to some old Penelope, now without menses or much of months of any kind, flowerless and pocked where the finches had picked. I stood spiky, wondering what you saw in me now and thinking, well, here I am. I've stayed alive and free, alone each night, unraveling the lies of my life. This next poem is called American Echo, and I'll show it to you because it's a poem for two voices, and one voice can be read kind of, can you see that? Vertically, and the other voice can be read vertically, but we're going to read it sort of horizontally. I'm going to read this voice, and Nancy has been lovely enough to volunteer when I asked her to read the second voice. Thank you, Nancy.
It's an honor.
This is called American Echo, a poem for two voices. We buy
They pick
where the beans are best,
the longest beans,
the strawberries flawless,
the reddest berries,
at the right price,
for what they can,
as a matter of pride,
with what remains of pride.
and penny righteous,
Pocket the pennies left
we put the groceries away,
after the local Walmart,
sit down on our asses,
at the defunct motel,
and maybe
straighten up, maybe
pray.
for the first time today. They pray.
When we do walk,
When they walked,
we walk through a gingerbread village,
they walked from their villages
looking out for our sons,
to save their sons.
after work at the bar for the locals,
The Lord's grooming children
white shirts,
for paradise white, white mosquito,
neon shirts,
rock candy, nuggets, grit,
browned arms,
their brown babies in arms,
vigor and vitriol,
toward hope,
vitamin
drug
of America.
of America.
Our girls
Seated on short stools
have little hearts painted
with fine brushes.
on their red lacquered toenails.
Manicurists paint tiny flowers
For the boys
on the blonde girls,
who are bending their elbows,
speak to each other,
bending ears,
small voices,
talking through their smoke.
oh, I have smoking their Mexican.
Okay, I changed that.
Okay. In the language of their country.
At the end of their day,
And at the end of the week,
these hardworking boys,
send money back, maybe to a brother,
these vigor and vitriol,
legless, having played in a scarred field,
base
carpet bombed
of America.
by America.
After the beers tonight, there will be fights, degrees of disagreements, sneering at mothers for being too caring, maybe a hot talk with a girl wanting to marry,
There will be fights tonight,
knuckle punches at each other for glory.
but never the right fights.
The fathers, soldiers gone soft,
Fathers
sit on Harleys,
sit late on concrete doorsteps,
blowing holes in their stories.
talking about the homes they left.
With each next year,
Each passing month,
their rage burns more bitter.
fear changes direction.
These are our husbands.
These are their children.
We cover their asses
They keep their heads down
and maybe
and maybe
pray.
stay.
Thank you, Nancy.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Mhm.
I think, does everybody know what peepers are? They're small frogs we have here.
Yeah.
They're some of the first things to sing in the spring. This is called The Deception of Elements. Your illness stuck up a thin hip from under the covers, and the sweetness and lilt of our lives was in question in April, the windows open to the a cappella of peepers. I placed my palm to the place where your cells failed you, traitors, an accident of time. I touched my fingers over the bad spot until they were roots, sucking the sour earth, redoubling my best efforts to keep you. The coyotes entered like begging, closer than normal, plaintive from across the hill, or like praying, noses toward the impetuous sky, so that the nesting ducks were roused and flew, their night throats rusty. And the birch boughs blew louder in the spring wind, in a rush to sweep the last of winter, and the peepers still trilled for love. This is a poem, a kind of version of a Baba Yaga, who is probably all of you know is in Russian folklore a crone. She, in many of the old myths or pieces of folklore, has a house that, excuse me, the house that dances on chicken feet, and this house is just a little bit different, but same idea. Through the brown sponge of night, the sour smell of damp, leafless dogwood, the moon hangs low, like a lifeless unborn babe. There's no good trying to beat a way out of here. The end of growth, this late fall, this trap of done. Each league her heels shorten, her feet kiss the cold earth, and her bunions burrow for winter. Starving twigs pull at her hair, the wet wind suckles at the sobs stored around her softening spine. Her nose, having run into impatient dark at least once, crooks above a perfect mouth. Red lipstick, she cackles, stopped, having found her house on baby feet dancing. And as her naughty hands apply it, the sky lets go a gush. Let's see. This is a poem, a kind of nostalgic poem called Then. The way perfume would drift onto my skin and make some magic. And the buttons listened, attentive, steadfast, never a pucker straight up from my waist. The way I set the forefoot first and the long heel followed, icicle, slender. And my calves crouch, then lope like cats across the savannah. The way the dim night light made my cheekbone come certain. And a martini languished on the tip of my tongue, then set a small fire. The way, occasionally, a smile would win my lips.
Hmm.
This is a poem with a few sections and probably a work in progress called Spring Trees. And yeah, it just kind of personifying, I guess, personification of trees in the spring. Silver birch. Dear sleep of God, lift. All winter she's clattered for balance in the old cold, and it seemed forever, holding rooted, ferocious even around stone and stone and stone. She's to shed bits of silver skin, invite the new birds to clean the deep wood creases. She longs to throw back her head of catkins and shake it free of before. Willow. She pulls like feathers chartreuse from her barely thawed pores, simply out of desperation to be loved again, or defying death, weeping over the creek edge, ready for anything. Larch. I am the son of God, deciduous in a conifer place. My arms have held little all winter long. Bare in the strong wind, they swept up to praise him. I shed my ochre locks of love for you, the scent of Christmas crushed under your tires all winter long. They will come again in spring. They will come lithe green, unknowing. Dogwood. Blooming poodle, mutt flowers, wet dog drying in the bisque sunlight, smell of semen left on a sidewalk, wagging over such small squares of soil. Cherry. Temperate, graying brown, mellow as pipe smoke, so handsome, so patient, too handsome, too patient for the giddy pink flowers.
Hmm.
And this last one in the series is called Maple. Sweet thing, you northern cowboy, you pickup truck all dented, dull red, you flask of sweet liquor, you bronze arms, you golden hair in the sunlight, you spring into my heart, you green, green love. And this next poem is called Shedding. I itch to be rid of this longanimous skin. I loosen it over the bottom rail of a closed gate where once I lived. In the kitchen where I waited for the leftovers of love, I rasp it off in the drawer on knives with dull edges. I shed it between stiff bed sheets where lovers crossed and dreams sailed like moths toward any light. I slide between the window and sill, scraping away what I've seen, where I've been, and slither out and down into the rain hissing on leaves, washing away the last flakes. And this last poem is with apologies to everyone. It's called Gender Reveal, and some of you, especially the women of my age, have probably been to baby showers in the past, as they used to be, and now, and maybe some of you men too. I don't know. Now there's baby reveal, and things are much different. And this poem is about that. Pardon me if you've never been to a baby shower anywhere from the 1950s through the 1990s, because a lot of these images are of that time. Gender reveal. An elaborate plan to reveal a baby's gender went disastrously wrong when a smoke-generating pyrotechnic device ignited a wildfire that consumed thousands of acres east of Los Angeles over Labor Day weekend, the authorities said. That's from the New York Times about a year ago. September last year. There was a time we perched in obliging folding chairs, holding baby blue paper cups with paper ear handles filled with red punch and a dab of salmon tone sherbet. We balanced on our laps crimped pink paper plates upon which the cocktail fruit poised in cubes of melting jello. Wearing a blouse of huge flowers, the mother-to-be tore the pink and blue paper from hand-knitted blankets, booties, duck-headed safety pins. Now, liberated from generations of gelatin, escaped from pastels, this mother in smart black knit stays sleek, beautifully bumped out in the middle like a snake at half meal. So little to hide, so much to reveal, and the bar is open. All being equal, the boys are invited. Boom! Half a state's forest is gone. Thank you.
Bravo.
Our last reader, not least, is Wendy Taylor Carlisle, who has come to the retreat many times now, sometimes traveling up from the Ozarks where she lives, but this year she can be home. She's the author of 4 books and 5 chapbooks, and is the 2020 winner of the Philip H. McMath Post-Publication Award for The Mercy of Traffic. And she has work in Persimmon and Pacific Review, the Atlanta Review, and others. In June, Doubleback Books reprinted her 2008 book, Discount Fireworks, as a free download. And I will spotlight you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Kathy and Nancy and Patty and all of you for being here. This has been a great deal of fun, and I didn't have to leave home. Wow. So I'm going to start tonight with an Ars Poetica. This is an older poem, but it's all about poetry this week, and so I thought of this poem. Against the Current. The answer is simple, really. Beautiful and slick as a California seal. It lies there on a flat rock just off the coast, smelling of fish and salt. Smell it. Pause to admire the sockeyes' ivory belly, the mahi-mahi's flashing gills. Watch for the gull's red legs, then ease into your own cold tide. Paddle straight out to where anchovy, those little silver knives, school past your ashy knees. Clutch a favorite poem like a child's striped float, and wait for the muse in a bright red Speedo. As she strokes past, let her splash you. And someone did a catch and release poem earlier in the week, and you can tell me who you were, or I can go wondering. This is my catch and release poem for Larry. My workshop will know that I have a number of poems for our neighbor, Larry. Catch and release. The birds fly out, the wind begins, the wind flies out and birds retreat. Moonlight sings in your rowdy mouth. The rain leans into snow behind the window, and all up on the ridge, the outside worries to be let in. The cat's gone to the fox, and the carpenter with the ruined ankles grieves all our losses. Chapter and verse, he says, catch and release, it's all the same. The moon goes dark, the moon flies out. The broken-legged wind goes flat. The cold and dark begin. And now, since this week has been about not just poetry, but poetry and food, this is a poem from another trip where food was a feature. Peccato de gola. My husband has peccato de gola, literally the sin of the throat. actually the sin of gluttony, which works out as a sort of global lust for the best restaurants and coffee bars and taco stands. One night in an out-of-the-way Gostlina in Slovenia, lush with whitefish and squid, sardines and clams, fresh from the Adriatic, bread with pumpkin oil and rocket salad, I knew I'd want to be that sort of sinner or travel with one forever. And this is, I don't see Patty on my screen. Patty has to be here because this is Patty's poem. It was written at the workshop.
You can scroll to the part of the gallery where she is.
Little arrow down, see blue arrow.
Oh, right. Okay, Patty, this is you, baby. You're up. This is a food poem written in 2013. Dining out for Patty. We're talking, and sure, we're talking a little loud, but we've paid, or we will pay soon, for this corner booth at the Golden Elephant with its white paper tablecloth. We'll pay for the mulligatawani soup and the samosas and the saag paneer and the tandoori and the lassi and the tea. But meanwhile, we have things to say, impassioned things about in-laws and carpenters gone wrong, heartfelt stories of second marriage and secondhand houses, because what else is there to do, really, but write the story of ourselves over and over, meaning-making animals, making it up. And as we finish the naan and move towards the silky kheer, the pitch rises, encouraged by calories. Food drunk, and as I have said, impassioned, we up the volume. Then the note comes. Dear loud table, you have ruined our meal with your whining about the implacability of life, with your characterizing and pigeonholing, with your complaining. We have sat here gripped by the meanness of your talk, hardly talking ourselves, judging, 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 as we know we must. And now we render this verdict. You are loud, you are messy eaters, you have not combed your hair. We have written this note on a torn corner of the paper tablecloth we had on hand, just to say, although it never occurred to us to speak to you or to leave the Golden Elephant before we finished our ruined meal. We were incensed, and we will entertain our friends with this story for years.
Oh my God. And that poem
That's good.
may have taken 24 hours for you. You're brilliant.
Okay. And because we just got back from making this trip, we stopped at New Orleans and didn't go all the way to Ocean Springs, but this is the trip that we took almost all the way. Hoops. Carol dies, and we are called to grieve and foster. Driving down through the South into Dash County to Hoots Barbecue, where we overhear the story about a sex addict coming home from treatment in California. And Mary Lou, you know Mary Lou, she says she wants to meet him, but it turns out not to be true. Not a sex addict, that is. So Mary Lou is all disappointed. And then we speed past Dizzy Dean's rest area in Wiggins, driving hard through a 12-hour day to come to rest late where Carol lived in Ocean Springs. And everyone is gathered, all the sisters, all the brothers, everybody coming from all over, New York to Arkansas, and everybody old and shot and wondering who's next, because Carol was the first, and you can't help but wonder. And the Baptist preacher preached a laid-back 45, which is restrained for a Baptist preacher. And the food was church lady and fried chicken delish. And we drove right back home by way of a late dinner at Hoots again, where we overheard another conversation about a local lady who couldn't even get hired as a Walmart greeter because the customers couldn't get past her big mouth chatter and into the store. And after that, straight home, and didn't talk again about the trip. And this is a biblical poem. Yeah, this is a biblical poem, which is also about Trevor Noah. It links the Bible with an interview in the New York Times. Poets have strange minds. Story fatigue. What was Noah looking for in the endless scroll of waves, which he began checking each morning before he got up from his pallet? I'm trying to find the zeitgeist of the flood, he said. He wanted the ark to alight just right, not on the least significant, dumbest bit of high ground, but on a good story. No one knew he wasn't the only guy tapped to build a boat. King Zasudra of Sumer built one and rescued animals centuries before. And no one knew a passel of others, which made him the relative newcomer. It wasn't the easiest, I'll say that, Noah told folks later. Working out a novel arc narrative took some figuring. Whenever possible, he made an effort to resist the pull of the older vortex. I consider story fatigue, Noah revealed, because I've learned audiences, including myself, just get tired because it feels like nothing has changed, nothing has moved. So he sent off a raven, and when that didn't work, a dove. And now, suddenly, I'm interested in fairy tales because of a poem that was not at all about fairy tales when I started in this workshop, but now turned out to be all about fairy tales. So this is a poem from this book, On the Way to the Promised Land Zoo. And lest you ask, there is a Promised Land Zoo right north of us in Missouri. Fairy tales now. Fairy tales now don't use the word tower or the word magic. Don't mention grandmother, stepmother, roses, or red lips. Don't say tragic. Don't describe the woods or throw their braid out the window. Never climb a vine or a glass mountain. They could have a vampire, but they never talk about the river unless somebody drowns. And then, as I said, when this is a workshop poem and it began one way and ended in this. You all know the story of Sleeping Beauty. So this poem is called Briar Rose, which is another name for Sleeping Beauty. Briar Rose. It happened more than once in that time between birth control pills and AIDS. It happened over and over, although it's a struggle to remember any of them. Those exquisite boys with their hands in the briars, the young ones with knives, the serious ones in ties, the princes in Levi's, all of them bringing their several and various gifts of flesh, their heat and beauty, their praise from their castle to yours. The frightened ones carrying lac under their tongues like a lead penny, the empty ones come to fill you up with lies, the witchy ones, they're wooing like the 13th fairy's curse, all of them crowding the hedge around your heart with their shears, their crazy desire, and you cursed to sleep a spell with them while you waited for something you had been promised was love. And then a little tiny poem about a one-night stand. I beat around the bush. I used to not say that that's what this was about, but really, it references a 1957 Sophia Loren movie called Boy on a Dolphin. Bait. What in the name of Sophia's marble Boy on a Dolphin was I thinking? The evening we opened each other up, easy as a fork in a brick of tinned fish. Easy as picking out the dainty bones from salmon, the meat pink as Phaedra's lips, as the inside of your cheek, where a stranger's tongue goes when he lays you down on the dock 100 yards from the party, or on the carpet in a small room up your parents' hall, a man in a hurry who opens his arms with a flourish, meets your mouth, which is dry as day-old sockeye, and kisses you rosy, kisses you pliant as a coho fillet. And was I thinking that the day after? driving home through a hangover fog, the color of a tin-plated can, my heart black as a dorsal fin, the smell of bait on my thigh. And wow. And then another kind of sad, I don't know, this could be a fairy tale poem, but it's a sad fairy tale. This is ekphrastic. I saw this picture by Chris Vereen, photographer Chris Vereen, on the web, and the title was Amber Got Her Girls Back, and Now They Live in the Abandoned Restaurant. In the photograph, Amber is watching her girls play in that forsaken greasy spoon. She has her hand on her neck, stroking the place where Craig's fingers press down. The forest green sham wood paneling backgrounds the two toddlers who are oblivious, jumping on their makeshift bed, a mattress propped between two booth seats. The bed's yellow stuffing is exposed like cut fat. The kids who don't notice their rundown surroundings are writing their own stories, even at the second of this snapshot. The pink shirt with the red heart is the baby's favorite. She'll remember it beating. Her sister will pass down the worn jeans and the brown brogans. I always get the hand-me-downs, the baby will gripe, and she will always be the baby, even after Amber presents her with a younger brother. They don't know it now, capering on the dilapidated booth bed, but both girls will, in times of stress, adopt the same dreamy look their mother wears, go searching for their version of those wicked fingers, that green paneling, which will turn out to be the wild woods of their grown-up adventure. And now, a little culture. The title is a quote from Ludwig Wittgenstein. It's the first line of his Tractatus Logo Philosophicus. And it is, the world is everything, that is the case. The world is everything, that is the case. Ears, socks, back table in a bar that smells of the sea. These are the world. His hands, the way lust varnishes his eye. The world. The world is, what's happening, baby? Over and over in that bar and other bars in Tokyo and Paris and San Antonio. ¿Qué pasa, chula? And what comes after that is the world as well. Pool table, one more beer or martini or G&T. I may not understand Wittgenstein, plus nobody believes the same facts anymore, but I understand bars, bar stools, tables with years of stains too set to scrub away, and stages, or tablecloths and waiters, the bar back. And I know the world in those stacks of jeweled bottles, the aquamarine, the emerald, diamond, amber, gold. The world is too tight jeans, sport jackets, a sea of butts, the small talk, the chit chat. Why don't you sit right here? The go back to his place or your place after one more. The world is facts and acts, whereof one cannot speak, thereof one must be silent. Thank you. Ooh. Thank you, babies.